In today's video, I'm going to show you how to use some of my mermaid tail molds and molds to create this lady. So I've been promising you guys for a while that I've got my molds, that I would do some videos showing you how to use the tails, because I've not had time in a while, so apologies. So here they are. We're going to use a few different ones. Now, I've already kind of created some rocks. These are just made with leftover bits of fondant and modelling paste that I had, just kind of all marbled together. And you can stack as many together as you want, or alternatively, if you're not going to do yours just for kind of a model, obviously mine was just for practice for a Facebook Live that I did. But if I wanted to do these for someone, I could put them on a cake and I could make big rocks out of cake. But because they're not cake, they're going to be nice and sturdy. I'm just putting a skewer in just to make sure they don't fall apart. And then I'm going to have a look at using the mermaid tails. So there's a few different ones. This is the small adult mermaid tail. So it says with starfish, it actually has a shell in, not a starfish. I didn't check the packaging when I had these made, so I apologize. As you can see when you open it, it's actually a shell. So on the website, it is described as the right thing, but just bear in mind, like if you've got one and that's what the packaging looks like. And it comes like with the end of the tail, this part of the tail. I don't know the different names of different parts of mermaid tails, so I apologize, guys. But we'll also need to use the body mold as well. I mean, you don't have to. Obviously, you can completely freehand all of this. This video is aimed at like those of you that have got the molds and want to have a few ideas of how to use them, or those of you that are thinking of buying molds and you want to look at what you can do with them. So we're going to use like the end of the tail, but we don't want the middle part. I guess like the fins. I want the fins. I'm using the large female body mold, so I won't need the legs because obviously she's got mermaid tail. But I think we'll use the part of the larger mermaid tail, so like the part that would kind of replace the legs. So I made all the mermaid molds, or the mermaid tails, so that they are kind of detachable, so that the fin comes apart from the main bulk of the tail, so that actually you can mix and match them, like, and swap the ends around on them. So my plan was to kind of have like a patched effect. Patched, I'm not sure if that's the right word, but kind of have it so it was different colours inside. I could have just marbled it, to be honest. So I put in a little bit of purple and pushed it in the mould. I tried to kind of bring it to an odd shape, put in some little dots of it, and then filled the rest of the mould with green. Now, I haven't put anything in the mould other than the modelling paste. I'll link below all the products I've used as well for you guys. You want to have it roughly, very roughly to the shape of the mould, and then you can press this in. I didn't weigh it, I just kind of guessed the amount on this one, so apologies for that, guys. If you put too much in, you can just trim any extra off. Press it in really firmly, and the idea of this little slit at the top is that you can use it to help kind of get the tail out if you get it stuck. Also, you can put corn flour in the mould, like a light dusting of corn flour, if you have problems with your paste sticking. It was quite cold when I was making this, and my paste was setting pretty quickly, so it wasn't sticking at all to the mould. But I'll give it 5 minutes in the mould, and then I'll work on the tail part as well. Now, obviously, you can just put the colour in as just one solid colour, but I wanted to have a little bit of a play around, seeing if I could put the different colours of modelling paste into sort of like the different sections, or where the different lines and detailing is on this one. It took me a while to do this. It probably would have been quicker to do it in one colour and then paint it up. But if you do decide to do it in several different colours, or two colours like what I used, you can do it this way. It is fiddly, but it does look nice when it's finished. But at the end, you'll see I ended up painting up my tail with edible colours in the end, so I probably didn't need to do all this. But if you are going to do it, just press really firmly into each little section. You want to make sure the pieces are quite small, otherwise they will go over the edge of sort of each of the sections. Like I say, it's cold in here, so let's take this one out before it has too much time to firm up. You can see the purple has already started to firm a little bit on there, quicker than the green. So large female body, I think, is going to fit nicely with this one. It's got a flat area on the top so that you can attach the body here. If you don't want that flat area, just rub it down with your fingers a little bit as well. But I'm going to bend this before it sets too much and stick it onto my rocks. Can you see where the purple's dried a little bit harder? I don't know why that is. I also have like a little mermaid scale mould. Now, it's not going to give you ultra definition unless your paste is soft. So because my paste has started firming up, it will give me a bit of an impression, but it won't give me like a huge, deep impression. So I'm going to stick this on with a bit of water. Now I didn't put any impressions of the scales on the back, but we're not going to see the back, so I didn't worry about that too much. If yours isn't sticking and you want something stronger, you can use edible glue. Can you see how it's kind of dried? I think it is just because it's so cold in here. So because this bit was so much harder than the green, you can see the scales haven't pressed into it at all. Okay, I'm going to go back to finishing the tail anyway. I'm very backwards and forwards in this. This one was actually a live that I did on Facebook. I actually did it over a few different live sessions. I think we did it over about 3, maybe even 4. No, I think it was 3. Just because I could do a bit and I'd let that firm up. It's more time consuming than you think when you start putting it in little pieces like this. I also had another mermaid on the go as well, where I was showing you some things freehand without the mould. But in this video, because it's about the moulds, I have just put the mould section in. But these ones are really nice and flexible. So can you see how easy the end of the tail fin kind of comes out of there? If you didn't press those different colours firmly together, though, they will come apart as you take it out of the mould. So lots of pressure on them when you're pushing them in the mould. So I'm going to attach this to the end of the tail. So you see I put a little indentation in there, and the tail's going to kind of go over the fin a little bit. And then I'm going to press the fin against the rocks in the direction I want it to go. And then you can kind of smooth it in to the tail a little bit if you want to. Just using the back of my Dresden tool there for that. Now it should set and not need any support, but for the time being, because it's a little bit soft, I'm just putting a skewer under there to just hold it in place. Once that's set, I'll take that off. Now I'm just going to add some individual little scales as well. So I've just got some tiny balls of the modelling paste, and I'm just pressing them on and sort of pushing my Dresden tool in, sort of into the middle of each of those, and then kind of dragging it along to the side as we go along. I'm not going to fully cover it in this. I don't think it needs them everywhere. I think it's nice that it sticks out. You can see, look where the purple's cracked. I honestly don't know why it dried so fast, that purple. Okay, so the large female figure mould for the body, we're not going to go with like any kind of natural skin colour. We're going to go with purple, or a pale purple. Just roll it so you've not got any cracks in your modelling paste. And it will want to be fairly slender at the bottom part to be able to fit it into sort of that waist area. You can flex your mould apart a little bit. And also, you know, if you want to dust it in a thin layer of corn flour, really giving it a good press. Now I have got more paste than I need, but that's fine. I can just trim the extra off the back. Now, if you want some more videos on using these body moulds, I do have some more. I've got a playlist on here. And I think it's just called Zoes Moulds. I forget. I'll tag it below. But there's a few different mould videos on there if you've got the moulds. Okay, so once you kind of smooth the back kind of corners, edges, you can do it with your finger. You can push something in the mould to help you remove it. So again, that little slit at the top is so you can put a wire or a kebab skewer in there to help you get that out of the mould. I would advise leaving it in the mould for 10 minutes just to start to firm up a little bit before removing it. Okay, let's take that skewer out for now. So the idea of this bit here is where the legs slot into place, but we won't need that bit, so we're going to just trim that off there. Just going to press it down. Thinning it a little bit at the edges, because that's where we're going to put it onto our tail. I'm just going to remake the hole. So I've kind of pushed the neck slightly forwards, a little bit of a forwards angle. That way the body's not too upright when we put it on in place. Okay, let's get some water on the bottom and we're going to push this onto here. So I'm going to push the skewer all the way down. Just check from the side that you're happy with how upright her body is. You might want to lean into the side or backwards or forwards a little bit. And I think when we've got the body on, we'll give her like a belt or like a little trim. And I'm going to use the little bit here. I think I made it as a crown, but you know, just to show you, you can use it for other things. So again, this is one of the different mermaid tails. I've got all the mermaid tails here, so I'm just using the different parts of each different one. And of course you could make little shells and fancy bits yourself. Comes out nice and easy out of the mould, these ones. And I'm just putting it across. Can you see the line between the body and the tail? So it's just going to cover up the join, make it look a little bit neater and tidier for us. Now, I chose to do it in the same colour as the skin, but you could do it in whatever colour you wanted. I'm just going to twist the shoulders, so not like her tummy, or not much of her tummy, but her shoulders to the direction I want her to kind of look in. And I think we're going to dust the tail or add a bit more colour with the edible powders. So you can get all different sparkling ones, or ones that kind of, these ones are shell nacre. They kind of add a tint of colour. I'll see if I can show you on here. It never shows as well on camera though as it does in real life. It's kind of a little bit iridescent, so it has hints of colour in certain lights. Let's see what the green one looks like. And usually I'll test on a practice bit that's the same colour as what I'm doing, because some of the dusts show really well on top of sort of coloured pastes, and some look very different on a dark coloured paste to what you think they're going to. So it's nice to have a little try. The purple's quite nice and dark. So I'm going to start by just dry dusting on. Again, I'll link all the brushes and things that I'm using. I think this is one I've got from Yellow Bee. She's got a nice range of brushes, but I'll put everything below the video for you guys. Let's add a little bit of the green. So the green, it doesn't show well, but it gives us a nice kind of pearlized finish. So I decided I was going to start by doing it all in just dry powder colour, but later I decided that I'm going to mix it more into a paint. So I've got some Rejuvenator Spirit, or you can use like clear alcohol. If you don't want anything with alcohol in, I think you can use lemon essence as well. It's just you can mix this into the powders to create a paint. It dries fairly quick, and like the alcohol evaporates, so it's not really left on what you're making anyway. Yeah, I think I like the pearlized effect, so I'm going to go a little bit more heavy-handed. But I think we need a bit of another colour as well. So let's go with some like bronze or copper. And we're not going to paint it everywhere. I should have probably gone for a slightly thinner brush, because the bristles on this one are all over the place, which means I'm not going to get a very nice, neat finish. But I'm just trying to catch the edges of the scales. And then I'm going to wet the purple. I'm going to mix the purple to make a paint as well. And then I'll just dab that on as well. So can you see, just gives me a nice kind of mottled effect. A little bit more gold on here and there, I think. But have a play around. Can you see how different it looks now with these darker colours added? Obviously, the more dipping solution or clear alcohol you add, the more fluid they'll be, but the more transparent they'll look. The thicker you keep it, so the less liquid you add to it, the less transparent they'll be. They'll be kind of more opaque colour. I think the bronze really adds to it though. And you can spend a little bit longer on it than I have if you want. So I'm trying to get like a bit of a darker colour. So I've got some of the purple in my palette. So I'm using the purple to go between kind of the cracks anyway. It would be deeper and more shaded. And then I'm going to go over with like a light gold on the bits that stick out more. And let's just try a bit of the shell nacre. I might be saying it wrong. I'll link it below the video, guys. Just so we get a nice pearlized colour on here. I'm just going to dilute it as well. First I put it on dry. Didn't show quite enough, so I'm just using it sort of mixed as a edible paint. Okay, onto the face. So this is the mould that I designed that doesn't have the eyes in. I think this is one that a lot of you guys do have. So first of all, I'm just going to shape my modelling paste so that it fits easily in there. Just make sure it's nice and smooth on the surface that's going to go into the face. And we're going to push it really, really firmly into the mould, especially where that nose and mouth area is, which is somewhere around here. Because it's so small, if you don't press really firmly in there, the paste won't go into that area. And when you pull your mould out, you won't have a nose or a mouth. Okay, you can see I've got way too much paste, but that's fine. Can you see how I kind of pulled that out? Extra paste just makes it easy for me to pull it out. There's loads of different ways you can take these out of the molds. Again, I would say go have a look at my different playlist of different mold videos and here. And I do them all in slightly different ways each time. And it does just take a little bit of practice. And you can kind of change the features a little bit or deepen them if you want to. So I'm just sort of making her smile a little bit more enhanced and adding some dimples as well. Now, I do forget the name of those modelling tools, but I'll link them below. Now, if you don't want to use a mould, guys, and you have got my book, don't forget to have a look in the book for different ideas. So because this mould doesn't have eyes, I could choose one style of eyes from the book as well, and I could still do them the same way on this one that's the mould. So if you're not really a fan of using moulds, that's absolutely fine. But if you're struggling with kind of doing things like eyes and you want a bit of practice, then I would suggest buying a mould just so you can practice eyes on, because it's quicker using a mould to create that basic face shape. sort of at the beginning each time, and then you can play around with creating things like eyes in different styles, and it's just going to make it a little bit faster for you. So we've pushed a circle in each eye, or a ball tool. It's not really a circle anymore. And then I've made it kind of more like a lemon shape. So kind of put a point that goes in the inner corner towards the nose and one towards the outer edge as well. And then I'm going to add a little bit of blush. So this is a deeper pink. It might be the Claret. I'll check and I'll put it below the video. Again, these are all the edible powders. So I've gone for the cheek area slightly above the eye. And then I'm rolling a little piece of white modelling paste to just carefully pop in the eye socket. So you just want to fill the eye socket. It can bulge a very tiny bit, but you don't want it to bulge too much. And then let's cut a thin little bit of purple. See if we can give her some eyelashes. Now, I wouldn't usually do eyelashes purple. I actually was looking for some black and I didn't have any black paste around. So I was like, oh, do you know what? We'll just use purple. It's fine. And then I'll paint it up later. But it's a nice thin point at the end that comes towards sort of the nose. And again, if you're stuck for ideas, different ideas of how to make the eyes, I do have lots of different videos. There's quite a few doll cakes on here on the YouTube channel that you can look at. And also it's worth having a look in the book, especially in the faces section of my book, where I show you different styles going from fairly easy ones to more complicated ones. So lips and the eye detail, we're just putting on with the edible pens. Again, I'll link below the video for you guys. You'll be sick of hearing me saying that now. You know where to go to see what I've used. I'm trying to mix a couple of different colours in the eye, so a bit of purple and a bit of the, I can't remember if it's sky blue or turquoise I'm using. Turquoise. Maybe even a bit of the deeper blue just along the top line. And then I'm using a slightly damp brush to kind of blend that colour from the pen into each other. I'm trying to keep it darker around the outer edge of the eye, but keeping it lighter as we come in kind of towards the middle. You can play around and add as many colours as you like. And if you don't want to use the edible pens, you don't have to. So you can see I'm kind of brushing the edible pen onto my brush. That gives me a slightly finer line. So this is the purple or the eggplant one. I'm just using it, it's kind of diluted down a bit on my brush to just go around the edge of the nose. So on the camera, because it's quite a pale colour skin, you don't really see it very well. So if I just enhance it a little bit around the nose, it just shows up that little bit better. And if you don't like it, just slightly damp a brush again and just go over that and you can take that back off. If you want more extreme eyeshadow, we can do the same with the pen, just colouring it in. And then you can sort of blend it out a bit with some more powder colour. So this is just that purple again that I'm using. I kind of like the eyelashes, this pale purple colour now. Just trying to get a really thin line across the bottom edge of each eye. Now, if you don't have a steady hand, you don't have to put this line across the bottom. You can leave it without. And again, I'm using some of that darker purple to go around the edge of the iris as well. And even a bit more shading on the lips, so kind of between the top and the bottom set of lips, sort of in the gap, and then sort of darkening it towards each corner of the mouth. And then you can use a little bit of white or one of the pearlized colours to kind of highlight the lips where the light would kind of hit them more. So on the top edge and the middle of the bottom lip. Eyebrows, I couldn't decide whether to draw them on with a pen or whether to stick them on and have them more 3D. But at this point, I couldn't decide what hair colour she was having either. So I just drew them on. So I've trimmed down that kebab skewer so that I can add her head. You can see I pushed it on a little bit of an angle. And I'm just trying to force sort of a bit of the extra paste around the back of the jaw onto the neck. I have attached it with a bit of water as well. And then we're going to make the arms. I'm using the mould. Again, you don't need to use a mould. If you can do this all by hand, that's absolutely fine. So the mould comes with like finger marks kind of marked in, but they're not individual fingers. So you have to cut those with the craft knife or a knife if you want actual individual fingers. So this is kind of the fiddly bit just because the fingers are so thin. And then I'm just going to play around with shaping the arm to decide kind of what position it's going to be in. So I think we're going to have a bent arm. So just bend it and kind of press it to a point at the elbow. You can see I've rested it over my craft knife just to let it firm up a little bit before we stick it on. And then there's the second one. Okay, so the one that we've not bent, the second one, I'm going to just push on. I've added plenty of water, and then I'm just going to try and press it onto the body. Now, the body at this stage is hardened. I know this is one video on here, but when I did it as lives, it was a few. So the body has had time to harden, but the arm is going on soft. The second arm, it's going to need a little bit of help staying on, especially at that angle, because I want it kind of up and out to the side, and the weight of it will want to pull down. So I've added a wire, which we didn't need on that first arm. Very carefully pushing it on there. It's really sticky up at the shoulder. Just pressing it on now. Once you've blended the seams, now if you can't blend the seams, you can always put hair over, but just wet your brush to blend over those seams. Once the water has dried, you can add a little bit of the pink that we put on her cheeks, just to give her a bit of colour on her shoulders. Okay, so back to another of the mermaid tails. So the large one I know has this little crown or tiara in that I'd made. So the moulds are all things that I have made and then had a mould created out of. Also, I know lots of people are going to comment in that when you see how I spell mould, it looks wrong. That is how you spell mould in the UK. I know in the US it is spelled differently. But yeah, here in the UK, it's how it's spelled. I know I get a lot of comments on that. Okay, so we have put the crown in, or some paste in the crown. We've taken that out. I'm also going to use the shell part from one of the moulds as well, just to create like her little bikini top. You'll notice, or you might not have noticed, that when I put this in the shell mould, I kind of stuck a balling tool on my finger in the middle, so it stayed hollow in the middle of the shell, so a boob kind of fit into that hollow mark. And then, do we want this on as a necklace? I can't decide if the tiara looks good as a necklace, like if she looks good with some heavy necklace action on. You can see I've got a few cracks in the paste where I didn't need it very well. It's fine, that will cover up when we paint it up later. I'm just going to add a little bit of shading just to darken some areas of her body. So I'm just using the edible powders and a nice dry brush. Again, some fairly diluted purple that we're just going to brush into the cracks. Now, I could have really, instead of brushing this dark colour in, I could have just started with a darker colour modelling paste instead of this pale kind of lilac-y purple that I've got. So yeah, it would have been quicker if I'd just started with like a black modelling paste, and then I could have just brushed the gold on carefully, trying not to get it into the cracks. Now, just having a look at any other little details that I want to add on. So I think I'm just going to add some more scales quickly. I'm waiting for her head to kind of dry on her neck a bit. And I forgot, did I tell you that I'd added? No, yeah, I did. Ignore me, guys. I'm losing track of what I'm doing. Okay, I'm going to use the hair mold because, we're using molds in this video just so I can show you the different molds. Again, I do have another video on using the straight hair mold and different styles using the straight hair. So you can check that out on here as well, on my YouTube channel, that is. But you're just going to feel like the main bulk of it first. If you want hairlines on both sides, you could put the hairlines in while it's still in the mold as well. And then let's just trim just down a couple of these lines, just so it's not one big block of paste. And then we can kind of pull these out to the side and bend them around a little bit when we stick it on her hair. Or on her head. You don't have to put these cuts in if you prefer not to. Okay, so I'm putting water on this side because this is the side that I'm sticking to the back of her head. So we are going to see these lines a little bit from the front, but not too much. Once it's stuck on there, you can add more lines to the back, or you can stick another piece of hair like the opposite way around on the back if you want. Depends how thick you want that hair to be. And then I'm going to use some of the individual strips in the hair mold, and we're just going to start adding extra pieces on here. Now, do make sure your head is on there pretty firmly attached, and then the neck has started to dry. Otherwise, the weight of all this hair can compress the neck down and it can crack or just kind of squash down. Okay, so I'm just playing around now with kind of the different pieces of hair in the mold, seeing what kind of fits well where. I tend to go for like the smaller and thinner pieces towards the front of the head. I haven't given her ears. I could have done, but I figured the hair was probably going to cover them up, so I didn't bother adding those ears. Just make sure they are firmly pressed in place. So there we go. So these are pieces that will go onto the back. No, it won't. I'm going to cut it up. So I'm cutting a little bit off the top, and then if you want it longer, just kind of stretch it out and you can bend it a little bit as well. So you'll notice the back of her head, I didn't bother making it rounded. I didn't think it would matter simply because we're going to be covering it. And you're not going to see the shape too much on this one because the hair's pretty thick. Obviously, if you wanted to round it off earlier, you could do. Okay, so let's add some more pieces of hair. It's just building it up gradually, a little bit at a time. You can kind of get them to stand out a little bit, but depending what kind of paste you've got will depend on how much like you can get them to stand out on their own. A bit like when we put the arm on, you know, I had to add a bit of wire to get it to stick completely out to the side. That would be the same with your hair if you want a piece that kind of sticks out completely, sort of, I guess, waving around in the water, with it being a mermaid. So all of my pieces of hair don't stick out that much on this one. Okay, so let's do the same piece in the mold again, but actually use the tiara for like a little crown this time. And then add some smaller pieces of hair, just kind of coming out from underneath at the front. Okay, so her crown is going to need painting up. Or you could try using the edible pens again. In fact, I'm going to use these for kind of going into sort of the roots of her hair. Just making it a little bit darker as it comes up towards her scalp. If you don't like the lines from the pen, if it's like sort of too defined, just again, slightly damp brush, running over that, dragging it down into the rest of the hair so that it blends a little bit better. And of course you can use the dry powders or the powders mixed to a paint again for this. So I'm just trying to, again, go into the cracks with my pen, just darkening it. And you don't have to do all this if you don't want. I just wanted to spend a little bit of time painting her up to see what she looks like, because I think the characters look very different when they've got like a bit of shading and things onto when they're just pretty plain block colour. I think both look nice. It just is very different depending on which one you choose to go for. So I'm adding some white now just to give us some highlights as well. So try and just aim for bits that the light would kind of reflect onto and make it look like it's really sort of shiny or a highlighted bit. So don't go everywhere with the white. They do have white edible pens as well, so you can use them if you want. I thought the white powder mixed with clear alcohol would be stronger for this. So all there is left to do now on her is to give her a little pearl on her hand. And I think she's about finished. I didn't give her pupils. You can give her pupils if you want. I just wanted to see what she'd look like without. But yeah, there she is, all done. I hope you guys enjoy using the molds. Give me a shout if you've got any questions about them. And don't forget, you can check out more of the videos on my YouTube channel here. So thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to click like and subscribe for more videos like this one. And don't forget, you can find my more in-depth teaching classes without molds over on my website. And of course, my book is available as well to help you with your figure modeling needs. Thanks, guys. See you next time.